Hi guys, in this video we're going to be having a look at how to have multiple Kirby's using arrays and how to give them all some individual motion. So this is similar to what we did with the turtles before, but that time we were able to use some of the features of Turtle to make it a little bit easier. This time we're going to do more of the hard work ourselves. So what I've got to start with is a program similar to what we had in the last video. Okay, I have got a picture of Kirby. I load the picture in and then I draw it onto the screen at location 0, 0. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to change the position each frame. So that means in a minute I'm going to write something inside this onFrame method. And I also want to be able to put Kirby's onto the screen by clicking my mouse. So I'm going to need to use the onMouseClick method. And I've just written those methods already, just the title of those methods, what's called the signature, so that I can fill it in later on. So if I run this program at the moment, it just displays the Kirby in the middle of the screen. And if you've seen the last video, then hopefully this will make sense to you. Okay, so we'll start off with something simple. I can draw Kirby on the screen. Let's put in a coordinate. So I'm going to create an X coordinate here. Starting off at 0. And then I'm going to draw Kirby at the X coordinate. And every frame I'm going to add 1 to X. Now if I run that program, we can see that Kirby gradually moves to the right and he's leaving a trail of Kirby's behind him. So I might want to clear the screen each time. I can do that by writing screen.fill at the start of my onFrame method. Now I could have set the background to something other than white, but I actually quite like white. It sort of suits Kirby's positive nature, so that's jolly good. Okay. Now that's Kirby's X coordinate. Let's also have a Y coordinate. And I'm going to draw Kirby at coordinates X and Y. Let's run that. Okay, that's fine. Now let's say that when I click the mouse, I'm going to move Kirby to that position. So again, this is based on this video. I can put this.x equals X, this.y equals Y. And then Kirby starts moving, but if I click the mouse, he's going to jump over to where my mouse is each time. Okay, now I think I'm going to change this to Y motion so that Kirby moves down the screen like this, because that's actually closer to what we want to do. What we're actually going to do is make some bouncing Kirby's. Now at the moment I only have one Kirby, but what I want to do is have lots and lots of different Kirby's. So we need to start using arrays to keep track of all of the different Kirby's. So instead of X and Y, what I'm going to do is up here I'm going to have an array of integer called X values. Let's set that to 100. And then I'll do the same for Y values. Okay, now I also need to have multiple Kirby's. I'm not going to start off with 100 Kirby's. I'm going to add a Kirby each time I click the mouse. So that means I need another integer which keeps track of how many Kirby's there are. So that's going to be an integer and it's going to start off at 0. Now when I click the mouse, what I'm going to do is take that mouse position and store it into the array. And the location in the array is going to depend on how many Kirby's already exist. So when there are no Kirby's, I'm going to store it in the very beginning of the array. And then after one Kirby, I'm going to store it in the second position of the array, and so on and so on. So that means that I'll put X values num Kirby's equals X. I'm copying the X coordinate from my mouse into the X values array at the location num Kirby's, which will be 0 at the beginning. And the same for Y values. And then once I've put the X and Y values into those arrays, I need to increase the number of Kirby's, okay, because although the arrays have a fixed size, okay, each array has a capacity of 100 items. That doesn't mean that it's actually got 100 Kirby's. We start off with 0 and then we're gradually adding Kirby's. Now, if I actually added more than 100 Kirby's, then I would go beyond the capacity of the array and I'm going to get an error in Java, okay? We won't worry about that at the moment. Now let's look at drawing the Kirby's. So I need to use a for loop to go through the arrays and draw each Kirby in the array. Now you might want to pause the video and see if you can do that part yourself. I'm going to do the solution in just a second. Okay, so my for loop looks like this. I'm going to use I as the counting variable, count from 0. Keep going until I get to num Kirby's and add 1 each time. And then the X and Y coordinates are going to be from that location in the array. So it's X values I and Y values I. Okay, let's try running the program. So there are no Kirby's at the beginning. I click the mouse and a Kirby appears. And I can put Kirby's in any position I like. Now this is kind of similar to what we did before, but the difference is that I actually have the coordinates of the Kirby's in an array, and I'm drawing all of those Kirby's every frame. That means that I can do stuff like changing the coordinates of the Kirby over time. Let's try subtracting 1 from each Kirby's Y coordinate. Okay, now the Kirby's move. I can click to create new Kirby's and they gradually move down the screen. Remember, if I create 100 Kirby's, then I've reached the limit of the array, and creating additional Kirby's is going to cause an error in Java. So I don't want to go too crazy clicking. Okay, now we can do some quite fun things with these Y values. So what I'm going to do is create another array called dy values. This array is going to change how much I adjust the Y values each frame. Okay, so dy stands for difference in Y, or if you prefer, differential of Y. This is going to be used to give a gravity effect. So what I do is, at the moment when I click, you can see that the Kirby's move down the screen at a fixed speed. Okay, they don't fall like you would fall in the real world. In order to create a more realistic physics effect, I need to accelerate the Kirby as it falls. So I can do that by, instead of always subtracting 1, I subtract the value which is inside d values. And then the d values array, I increase. Now actually I'm going to add the value inside d values and then subtract from d values. The reason I'm doing that is to keep the directions consistent. So the positive direction always means up and the negative direction always means down. So if I want to accelerate Kirby downwards, I'm going to subtract 1 because he's moving down faster, not up faster. Okay, so now if I run it, when I click, you can see it falls downwards. Now he is falling kind of fast. I would maybe like him to fall a little bit slower than that. If I want to make him fall any slower, then using integers isn't going to be accurate enough. I'm going to need to use doubles so that I can represent decimal points. So let's change the program to use doubles. Now most things work the same. The only catch is that draw image requires me to use an integer. So I can change a double into an integer by writing int in brackets in front of the double. Now, once I'm using doubles, I'm allowed to use decimal points in my calculation. So instead of subtracting 1 from d values, I can subtract 0.5. That might give Kirby's which fall a bit more gradually. That's better. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I also want to do is make the Kirby's bounce. Okay, so to make my Kirby's bounce, I'm going to check the Y values. And if it hits the bottom of the screen, which is a Y coordinate less than minus 200, then the first thing I'm going to do is just put the Kirby exactly at the bottom of the screen. Now, this isn't 100% physically accurate. If I wanted to make it a more accurate physical simulation, I would need to work out exactly when the Kirby crossed the minus 200 point. But I'm not worried about making it super accurate at the moment. I just want something that looks reasonably realistic. So I'm going to set the Y value to minus 200. And then I also need to change the velocity of the Kirby from moving downwards to moving upwards. Okay, so in order to do that, I just change the sign of the number. So remember, dy is my velocity, how much I'm moving Kirby by. So to change the sign from negative to positive, I just put a minus in there. Okay, and there we got a bouncing Kirby. Pretty cool. Okay, let's have some more bouncing Kirbys. Now, you can, again, create a more realistic physical effect by decreasing the size of the bounces each time. So in real life, if you drop a ball onto the floor, it doesn't rebound to quite the same height that it did before. And you can do that by just multiplying your dy value by something less than 1. So, for example, if I multiply by 0, then Kirby will lose some height and gradually settle to the bottom of the screen. Now, he's kind of half off the screen there, so I think I'm actually going to change this to, let's see, Kirby's size is radius is 32 pixels on my computer, so I'm going to make it 178. That should mean that Kirby will bounce when the bottom of Kirby hits the bottom of the screen. There we go. Oh, I'm a little bit off there. Maybe Kirby's a bit bigger than I thought. Oh, hold on, 178. Oh, I'm an idiot. Let's try 168. There we go. That looks better. Okay. Okay, so guys, I hope all that makes sense. Now, the extra challenge that I'd like you to have a go at is giving the Kirbys an X velocity as well as a Y velocity. Okay, so dy value stores the Y velocity, but if you give your Kirbys an X velocity, you can also make them move left and right, and perhaps you could use a random number generator to give your Kirbys a random X or Y value so that they bounce to the left or right as well as bouncing on the ground. So you could start your Kirby moving right, and then it would bounce off the wall and then bounce around inside this window as if the window was a box. Okay, guys, I hope that all makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with the challenge.